Hey everyone, before we dive into this wild story, please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss more tales like this one, where appearances aren't always what they seem. Let's get started. I woke up that morning feeling bold, ready to make a statement. My closet, a curated collection of my own designs, beckoned. I chose a daring ensemble from my latest line at Voluto Moda, the fashion house I quietly own. The outfit was avant-garde, a tailored blazer with asymmetrical lapels, paired with vibrant, hand-dyed silk trousers. The colors clashed in a way that screamed confidence. I knew it wasn't conventional, but that's the point of high fashion. My secretary, Claire, always had an opinion, but I didn't expect her to react the way she did. As I walked into the office, I felt eyes on me. Claire was at her desk, sipping coffee, her gaze locking onto my outfit. I smiled, expecting a nod of approval. Instead, she let out a stifled giggle. My stomach tightened, but I kept my composure. I've built a career on bold choices. Why should her reaction bother me? Still, her laugh lingered in my mind. I wondered what she'd say if she knew the truth. The office was buzzing as usual, phones ringing, emails pinging. I'm the CEO of a tech firm, a role I've held for years. It's a world of suits and predictable ties, but I've always pushed boundaries. My fashion house, Voluto Moda, is my secret passion project. I started it a decade ago under a pseudonym to keep it separate from my tech life. No one at the office knows I'm the creative mind behind a globally celebrated brand. Claire's desk is the hub of office gossip, and her laugh had already sparked whispers. I overheard her chatting with a colleague, mocking my eccentric look. I pretended not to hear, but it stung. I designed every stitch of this outfit myself. It was a piece of art, not a punchline. I sat at my desk, wondering if I'd been too bold. Should I tone it down to fit in? But that's not who I am. I built Voluto Moda to defy norms. Claire's reaction was a challenge, and I wasn't about to back down. By mid-morning, the office was in full swing. I had a board meeting to prep for, but Claire's giggle kept replaying in my head. She wasn't cruel, just clueless. She thought I was trying to be trendy and failing. If only she knew my designs graced runways in Paris and Milan. I caught her glancing at me during a coffee break, her smirk barely hidden. I decided to have a little fun. Claire, what do you think of the new spring collections? I asked casually. She fumbled, mentioning some generic brand she saw online. I nodded, hiding my amusement. Her taste leaned towards safe, mass-market styles. My outfit was too much for her, but that's what made it special. I spent the rest of the morning sketching new designs in my notebook. Each line was a reminder of why I started Voluto Moda. Claire's opinion didn't define me. I defined fashion. Lunchtime brought more whispers. I overheard Claire telling another assistant I looked like I'd raided a costume shop. I laughed to myself, but it still irked me. My tech job demanded a certain image, but I refused to conform entirely. Voluto Moda was my rebellion, my way of saying I'm more than a corporate suit. Every piece I design tells a story, and today's outfit was about courage. I'd poured my heart into that collection, working late nights with my team in Italy. Claire's mockery felt personal, but I reminded myself she didn't know the full story. I wondered what she'd say if she knew I owned the brand. Would she backtrack? Apologize? I wasn't ready to reveal my secret yet. Instead, I focused on the day's tasks, letting my outfit speak for itself. By afternoon, I was back in my element, closing deals and sketching ideas. The afternoon brought a surprise. A client from Europe, a fan of Voluto Moda, was visiting. She walked in wearing one of my designs, a sleek coat from last season. I smiled, knowing the craftsmanship behind it. Claire didn't notice the connection, too busy organizing files. The client, Elena, gushed about the coat, saying it was her favorite piece. I nodded, keeping my cool, but inside I was thrilled. My worlds were colliding, and Claire was oblivious. Elena and I discussed business, but she kept circling back to fashion. Whoever designs for Voluto Moda is a genius, she said. I thanked her, biting back a grin. Claire was nearby, pretending to work but clearly listening. I wondered if she'd pick up on the hints. For now, I let her stay in the dark. The moment wasn't right, but it was coming. As the day wound down, I caught Claire staring at my blazer again. This time she didn't laugh, just looked puzzled. Maybe she was starting to question her judgment. My outfit wasn't just bold, it was a prototype for next season's line. Every detail, from the stitching to the fabric, was intentional. I'd spent months perfecting it with my team. Claire's initial reaction showed how little she understood high fashion. But I didn't blame her. Most people don't get it. Fashion, like business, takes vision. I built Voluto Moda from a single sketch to a global name. Claire's giggle was a small price to pay for living authentically. Still, I wanted her to see the bigger picture. I decided to drop a subtle hint. Claire, ever heard of Voluto Moda? I asked. She shrugged, saying it sounded vaguely familiar. I smiled and let it go. The next morning, I chose another Voluto Moda piece, a sculptural dress with metallic accents. It was even bolder than yesterday's outfit. I walked into the office, head high, ready for reactions. Claire's eyes widened, but she didn't laugh this time. Maybe she was learning, or maybe she was just confused. Either way, I felt unstoppable. My tech team was prepping for a big pitch, but my mind was on fashion. I'd gotten an email from my design team overnight. Our next collection was ahead of schedule. I spent my lunch break reviewing their sketches, feeling a rush of pride. Claire, meanwhile, was back to her usual routine, unaware of the empire I ran in secret. I wondered how long I could keep this up. The thrill of my double life was exhilarating, but it was also exhausting. Still, I wasn't ready to spill the beans. By midday, the office was abuzz with rumors about my eccentric style. Claire wasn't the only one talking now. A few colleagues asked me where I got my clothes, half joking. I just smiled and said, "Oh, a little place I know." They didn't press, but I could tell they were curious. My outfits were becoming a topic, and I loved it. Voluto Moda was about standing out, and I was doing just that. Claire, though, seemed conflicted. She'd stopped laughing but still whispered to others when she thought I wasn't looking. I decided to push the envelope. During a team meeting, I casually mentioned attending a fashion event in Milan last month. Claire's ears perked up, but she didn't comment. I could see the gears turning in her head. My secret was safe, but it was getting harder to hide. That evening, I stayed late to finish some work. Claire was still at her desk, organizing my schedule. I caught her glancing at my dress again, her expression unreadable. "Big plans this weekend, Claire?" I asked, keeping it light. She mentioned shopping for a new outfit, something safe for a date. I suggested she try something bold, maybe from Voluto Moda. She laughed, saying it was out of her budget. I bit my tongue, tempted to tell her I could get her a discount. Instead, I wished her luck and left. Driving home, I reflected on the day. Claire's reactions were a reminder of why I kept my fashion life secret. People judge what they don't understand. But I was tired of hiding. Maybe it was time to let the truth slip, just a little. The next day, I wore my favorite Voluto Moda piece yet, a coat with hand-embroidered details. It was a showstopper, and I knew it. Claire's jaw dropped when I walked in, but she quickly recovered. "Bold choice," she said, her tone neutral. I thanked her and got to work. The office was quieter today, but I could feel the curiosity. My outfits were sparking conversations, and I was ready to lean into it. During a break, I overheard Claire telling someone about my weird fashion obsession. I decided it was time to have some fun. I left a Voluto Moda lookbook on my desk, open to the page featuring my coat. Claire noticed it later, her eyes lingering. She didn't say anything, but I could tell she was intrigued. The game was on. The following week, I decided to dial up the drama. I wore a Voluto Moda suit with exaggerated shoulders and a metallic sheen. It was straight off the runway, not even in stores yet. The office went silent when I walked in. Claire's eyes bugged out, but she kept quiet. I could tell she was dying to say something. During a meeting, a colleague complimented my suit, asking where I got it. "Just something I picked up," I said, smirking. Claire's curiosity was palpable now. She was starting to connect the dots, or at least trying to. I spent the day fielding questions about my style, keeping my answers vague. My double life was thrilling, but the secrecy was wearing thin. I wanted Claire to know the truth, but not yet. I needed the perfect moment. For now, I enjoyed the mystery. That afternoon, another client visited, this time a fashion editor friend of mine. She was wearing a Voluto Moda scarf I'd gifted her last year. Claire noticed it immediately, her eyes darting between us. My friend, Lila, raved about the scarf, mentioning Voluto Moda's latest show. I played along, acting like a casual fan. Claire was listening, her expression a mix of confusion and suspicion. Lila dropped a hint, saying she'd love to meet the designer someday. I laughed, saying, "Maybe you already have." Claire's head snapped up, but I changed the subject. The seed was planted. I could see Claire piecing things together, but she wasn't there yet. I left the office that day feeling like I was on the edge of something big. The truth was closer than ever. The next morning, I chose a more subtle Voluto Moda piece, a minimalist dress with intricate embroidery. It was understated but unmistakably high fashion. Claire didn't comment, but she kept stealing glances. I decided to push her a little further. I left my tablet open to an article about Voluto Moda's latest collection. Claire saw it when she brought me coffee, her eyes lingering on the screen. "You really like this brand, huh?" she said, trying to sound casual. I nodded, saying it was special to me. She didn't press, but I could tell she was intrigued. My secret was becoming harder to keep, especially with Claire's growing curiosity. I wondered how she'd react when she learned the truth. Would she be embarrassed? Impressed? I was eager to find out. By midday, the office was abuzz with a new project, but my mind was on Claire. She'd stopped mocking my outfits, but I could tell she was still puzzled. During a break, I overheard her Googling Voluto Moda on her phone. I hid my smile, pretending to focus on my work. She was getting closer, but I wasn't ready to reveal everything. I decided to drop another hint. "Claire, I'm heading to a fashion event next week," I said casually. "Want to come?" Her eyes lit up, but she hesitated, saying she wasn't sure it was her scene. I shrugged, saying it might surprise her. The invitation was a test. Would she take the bait? I wanted her to see my world, to understand who I really was. The countdown to the truth was on. That evening, Claire stayed late again, organizing my calendar. I caught her flipping through the Voluto Moda lookbook I'd accidentally left out. She didn't say anything, but her curiosity was obvious. I decided to have a little more fun. "Claire, what do you think of this season's trends?" I asked, pointing to the lookbook. She stammered, saying they were interesting, but not her style. I nodded, keeping my expression neutral. Inside, I was grinning. My designs weren't for everyone, but they were mine. Claire's reaction was proof she didn't get it, yet. I left the office that night feeling like a chess player, one move away from checkmate. The reveal was coming, and I couldn't wait to see her face. The next day, I wore a Voluto Moda jacket that had just been featured in a major fashion magazine. Claire noticed immediately, her eyes lingering on the intricate beadwork. "That's different," she said, her tone cautious. I thanked her, keeping my cool. The office was buzzing with talk about my style now, and I loved the attention. My tech colleagues were starting to see me differently, and I could feel the shift. Claire, though, was still in the dark. I decided to up the ante. During a meeting, I mentioned working with a creative team on a side project. Claire's ears perked up, but she didn't ask questions. I could tell she was starting to suspect something. My secret was hanging by a thread, and I was ready to cut it. By the end of the week, Claire was openly curious. She asked me where I got my clothes, her tone less mocking and more intrigued. I smiled, saying, "A designer friend." It wasn't a lie, but it wasn't the full truth either. She nodded, but I could see the wheels turning. That afternoon, a package arrived from Voluto Moda's studio, a sample from the new collection. Claire handed it to me, her eyes wide. "You must really love this brand," she said. I shrugged, saying it was just a gift. Inside, I was laughing. The package contained a dress I designed myself, and I planned to wear it next week. The moment of truth was getting closer, and I could feel the anticipation building. Claire was about to learn who I really was. The following Monday, I walked in wearing the new Voluto Moda dress. It was a masterpiece, flowing silk with hand-painted details. The office went silent, and Claire's jaw dropped. She didn't even try to hide it this time. "Wow," she said, almost to herself. I thanked her and got to work, but I could feel her eyes on me all day. During lunch, she finally asked, "How do you afford all these clothes?" I laughed, saying I had my ways. Her curiosity was at its peak now, and I knew I couldn't keep the secret much longer. I decided the fashion event next week would be the perfect stage. I'd invited Claire, and she'd agreed to come. The truth would come out there, and I was ready for it. The morning of the fashion event, I felt electric. I chose a Voluto Moda gown that was the centerpiece of the new collection. It was bold, intricate, and unmistakably mine. I arrived at the venue early, overseeing every detail. Claire was due to arrive later, and I couldn't wait to see her reaction. The event was packed with industry insiders, all buzzing about Voluto Moda's mysterious designer. I stayed backstage, letting the anticipation build. My tech life felt a world away. This was my element. I thought about Claire's laugh that first day, how it had sparked this journey. I wasn't angry anymore. I was grateful. Her reaction had pushed me to embrace my truth. The show was about to start, and I was ready to step into the spotlight. My secret was about to be revealed, and this was the moment I'd been waiting for. As guests filled the venue, I peeked out from backstage. Claire was there, looking nervous but excited. She had no idea what was coming. The lights dimmed, and the runway show began. Models strutted in my designs, each piece a piece of my soul. The crowd was captivated, and I felt a rush of pride. Claire's eyes were glued to the runway, her expression awestruck. I wondered what she was thinking. Did she recognize my style? My influence? The moment of truth was coming. I'd be walking out at the end, revealed as Vel Wife's Moda's designer. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. This wasn't just about Claire, it was about owning my identity. I'd built this brand from nothing, and tonight was my victory lap. The music swelled, and I felt unstoppable. The show was a hit, every look earning gasps and applause. Backstage, my team was buzzing with excitement. I caught glimpses of Claire in the crowd, her face lit up with wonder. She was starting to get it, even if she didn't know the full story yet. As the final model walked, the MC announced the designer's appearance. My heart raced as I stepped onto the runway. The crowd erupted, and I scanned for Claire. Her jaw dropped, her eyes wide with shock. I smiled, giving a small wave. The pieces were falling into place for her. I spoke briefly, thanking the team and the audience. Claire was frozen, processing the truth. I'd never felt more alive than in that moment. My secret was out, and I was finally free. After the show, I mingled with guests, but my eyes kept finding Claire. She approached me, her face a mix of embarrassment and admiration. "I had no idea," she stammered. I laughed, saying it was my little secret. She apologized for her earlier comments, admitting she didn't understand fashion. I waved it off, saying it was no big deal. But it was. Her reaction had pushed me to this moment, to owning both my worlds. We talked for a while, and I saw a new respect in her eyes. She asked about Voluto Moda, genuinely curious now. I shared a bit about my journey, leaving out the sleepless nights and sacrifices. Claire was hooked, and I felt a weight lift. The truth was out, and it felt like a new beginning. The next day at the office, everything felt different. Claire greeted me with a shy smile, no trace of her old smirk. My colleagues were buzzing about the event. Word had spread fast. I wore another Voluto Moda piece, this time with no hesitation. The office felt lighter, like I'd broken a barrier. Claire asked if she could learn more about fashion, and I offered to mentor her. It wasn't about proving her wrong, it was about sharing my passion. I spent the day balancing tech and fashion, feeling more myself than ever. Claire's laugh had been a catalyst, not a setback. I was grateful for the push, even if it stung at the time. My double life was no longer a secret, and I loved the freedom it brought. Over the next week, Claire became my unofficial fashion apprentice. She started noticing details in my outfits, asking about fabrics and cuts. I shared bits of Voluto Moda's process, watching her perspective shift. The office was different too. My colleagues saw me as more than a CEO now. My style wasn't weird anymore. It was inspiring. I realized how much I'd held back before, afraid of judgment. Claire's laugh had forced me to confront that fear. I was no longer hiding, and it felt incredible. Voluto Moda's next collection was already in motion, and I was sketching with new energy. Claire even asked to attend the next show, and I happily agreed. The dynamic had shifted, and I was thrilled. Looking back, Claire's laugh was a gift in disguise. It forced me to confront my fear of judgment and embrace my truth. I'd spent years hiding Voluto Moda, worried it wouldn't fit my corporate image. But that laugh pushed me to stop caring what others thought. I was a designer, a CEO, and unapologetically myself. Claire had grown too, learning to see beyond appearances. Our relationship was stronger for it, built on mutual respect. Voluto Moda was soaring, and my tech firm was stronger than ever. I'd found a way to blend my passions, and it felt like freedom. That morning, when Claire laughed, I could have retreated. Instead, I chose to shine. And I'd never go back. Thanks for joining me on this journey, everyone. If you loved this story, please subscribe and hit the bell for more. Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear them. Until next time, stay bold and stay true.